This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, good evening, everyone. We are here for a regular council meeting. I'm Mayor Chris Ewan. I'm going to do a quick introduction and then go through how the evening is going to look. With us tonight, we have Junior Councillor Brenna Gummany. We have Councillor Janine Boulanger.
Hi, everybody.
We have Councillor Curtis Clayton.
Good evening, everyone.
We have Councillor Ron Mamchuk.
Good evening, everybody.
We have Councillor Shane Pelletier.
Evening, everyone.
We have our CEO, Mitch Duval.
Evening and happy St. Paddy's Day.
Thank you. And we have in the background our Assistant CEO, Dominic Lemoine.
Good evening.
Perfect. So before I call the meeting to order again, we are going to be doing this online. So our votes will be casted through our online system, and then the CEO will announce if the motion has been defeated or the item has been defeated or affirmed. So we will start the meeting. I'm just going to open up my system. So I will call the meeting to, or item 1, meeting called to order. Do I have a mover?
Councillor
Councillor
Clayton.
Blanchet.
Councillor Clayton moves it, second by Councillor Boulanger. Thank you. Any comments or additions before? Seeing none, call for the question. Cast your vote.
Motion is carried 5-0.
Thank you. Open the meeting at 7:03 p.m. Item 2, adoption of the agenda. Do I have a mover?
Councillor Mamchuk.
Thank you. Second.
Councillor Pelletier.
Thank you.
Recommend that we proceed in order as the agenda unfolds.
Thank you very much. Any comments or questions or changes? Seeing none, I'll call for the question. Cast your vote, please.
Vote is carried 5-0.
Thank you. Item 3, adoption of the minutes. Do I have a mover?
Councillor Pelletier.
Thank you. Second.
Councillor Mamchuk.
Councillor Mamchuk takes it.
Last meeting was held on March 2nd. At that time, council passed a resolution to adopt the 2020 financial statements as unaudited. We also gave first reading to a parking bylaw, which council will then entertain later on this evening for second and third reading. Council also approved a subdivision of phase 1C in the Turon Creek development in St. Adolphe, and council also passed 2 supporting funding applications for various community projects within the municipality.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. Is there any comments or edits to the minutes before we move on from council? Seeing none, I'll call for the question. Please cast your vote.
Vote is carried 5-0.
Thank you. Moving on to item 4, committee reports and minutes. Do I have a mover?
Councillor
Councillor
Mamchuk.
Blanchet.
Thank you. Councillor Boulanger seconds it.
Councillor Pelletier reported on the Red Boyne Water District report provided there, as well as Councillor Boulanger reported on the Grand Point Homeowners Association, the Crow Wing Trail, the Reachot Library, and the Vintage Club.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. Is there any comments or questions on the committee reports? Seeing none, I'll call for the question. Cast your vote, please.
Vote is carried 5-0.
Thank you. Item 5.1, accounts paid to be approved. Do I have a mover?
Counselor Clayton.
Thank you. Second.
Counselor Pelletier.
Thank you.
Batch 14716 in the total of $163,854. The big ticket items there are the GFL invoices for garbage and recycling pickup for January and February, as well as a purchase of, I believe, 26 bins or so for an amount of 100,000. As well as legal fees that came in a little bit on the late side for 2020 in the amount of 43,000, and also dealing with MicroAge, who are our IT providers on a new server being installed at the municipal office for 19,000.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. Is there any comments? I know that we had some questions answered via email. Is there any other additional questions or concerns for the batch?
Nope, they were all answered. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you, council. Please cast your vote.
The vote is carried 5-0.
Thank you. Item 5.2, accounts not paid to be approved. Do I have a mover?
Counselor
Councillor
Mamchuk.
Blanchet.
Councillor Mamchuk moves it, second by Councillor Boulanger.
Two batches. The biggest batch is 14713 in the amount of just over 83,000, broken down into basically three invoices. Safety services people in the amount of 13,500. Repairs and maintenance done to the Ile des Chênes Arena in the amount of 13,800, as well as some WSP engineering on behalf of our public works utilities in the amount of 6,500. Nothing else to report. CFO reported the same amount on his report.
Perfect. Thank you. Is there any comments or questions from council?
None here.
Cast your vote, please.
Vote is carried 5-0.
Thank you. Item 5.3, payroll to be approved. Do I have a mover?
Counselor Pelletier.
Thank you. Second.
Counselor Mamchuk.
Councillor Mamchuk takes it. Thank you.
This is in regards to payroll 5, which is the period between February 14th and the 27th. No, not much overtime was spent during this time. However, there were quite a few bank hours on behalf of the CFO, EDO, and rec manager. CFO pretty much self-explanatory. It is year-end budgets and all that good stuff that goes with it. Other than that, nothing else to report.
Thank you very much. Is there any comments or questions from council? Okay, cast your vote.
The vote is carried 5-0.
Thank you very much. Okay, we will now move on to the public hearing section. So I'm just going to give a quick rundown before we get into our first public hearing. The way it's going to work tonight is we will start with reading out the public hearing number. The CEO will say his speech. I will then open up the public hearing, and I will ask those that would like, this is the order it'll be, those that would like to speak in favor that are in person on the subject will go first, then those that wish to speak in favor online will go, and then anything received to council or administration will be read. And then we will go into anyone wishing to speak against in person, against online, and received against to administration or council. That's the way we're going. And then if someone would like to speak during one of those times, please just say your name quickly, and then I'll get you to go on to camera and turn your microphone on, and we will start working it out like that. So just so everyone's aware, I will now start with 6.1.1 C6 2021 2175 Eau Claire Road Secondary Suite.
The proposal is to allow a secondary suite in a rural residential services zone, RRS. As per the Planning Act, notices were sent out to 100 meters of said property, sent to the McDonald-Reachot Planning District, Reachot Public Works Manager, Building Inspector, Council, CEO, and Fire Chief. It was also posted on site as well as the Ile-des-Chênes Country Store and posted via our municipal board and municipal website, and a connect notice was also sent out.
Thank you very much. Before I open the hearing, there's one other thing I wanted to mention. Once I close the public hearing, council will then start to debate and discuss. At that time, I ask that there would be no more conversation coming from the guests or the residents or anyone that may have some comments. That is just strictly for council's time. I will open up the public hearing for C6 2021 at 7:12 p.m. Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor in person?
No, there is not.
Thank you. Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor online? Anything received in favor?
Other than the email from the applicant, nothing received.
Council's read the email from the applicant. There's no need to reread it. Is there anyone wishing to speak against in person?
No, there is not.
Is there anyone wishing to speak against online? Anything received against?
Nothing received against.
Thank you. One last call. If there's anyone wishing to make comments, speak in favor or against, in person or online, I will close the public hearing at 7:13 p.m. Do I have a mover?
Counselor Mamchuk,
Thank you. Second.
Councillor Pelletier.
Thank you.
Okay. Resolution would read, therefore be resolved that conditional use application C6 2021 is approved subject to the following conditions. Number one, that the applicant obtains a building permit from the Armor-Reachot Municipal Office. Two, that the secondary suite must conform to the use-specific regulations in the zoning bylaw 9-2019, section 5.6. Three, that the applicant must comply with the municipal zoning bylaw parking requirements. Four, any outdoor lighting must be located, arranged, or shielded so that no light is directed at any neighboring property or roadway. Five, that the applicant shall ensure that all proposed construction conforms to the Manitoba building codes, fire codes, health standards, and any other municipal and/or provincial permits and approvals as may be required. The applicant may wish to seek the help of an engineer, architect, or other professionals who is certified in this field to ensure compliance. And six, that the applicant provides a signed confirmation letter accepting the terms of this order. There may be site audits conducted to ensure compliance, and non-compliance issues may be caused to revoke the conditional use at any time.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. I'll open up for council discussion. Council, anything you'd like to add or say, comment on?
I'm just a little confused about the actual plan. So maybe Mr. CEO, or if you guys have a little bit more information, is a secondary suite going upstairs in the loft? Is that in the bonus room? Is that what I'm understanding? Because it looks like there's a separate entrance going up that way. Or is it the whole house that is the secondary suite? Probably not the whole house, but.
I am just opening up the plans right now. Our planning person informed me that she believed that it was in the basement. If the applicant is online, maybe he could have some clarifications for this, please.
Yes, I was going to make it on top of the garage, the bonus suite. So they didn't update that. They were supposed to raise the roof and that is just a rough sketch. That's what I'm working off. So I'm still waiting on an updated sketch, something a little different. I went off of that, and then because I had I was going to initially do it in the basement, but then I have the big triple garage, so I was just going to make it on the loft on top of the garage. So they haven't updated the sketch. That's why it's looks a little out of whack. So the roof would be a little bit taller there.
Yeah, that's what I was confused about, because it looks like it's going in the loft, but then you look at the elevation, you're like, oh, those must be short people living up there. So
No,
thank you for that. No, I understand.
Thank you, Mr. Lenz. I appreciate that. Any other comments from council?
None here.
No. Council, please cast your vote.
I think my batteries went dead in my mouse.
Your vote, Councillor Mamchuk?
Yes, yes.
Thank you. Therefore, that would be carried 5-0.
Thank you. Moving on to 6.1.2 C7 2021 555 Sharon Bay home-based business.
The proposal is to allow a home-based business consisting of a bar, sugaring, and other personal services in a residential general RG8 zone. Again, notices have been sent out to 100 meters of said property, posted on site, as well as the Ile des Chênes Country Store, municipal website, municipal board, and Connect message was also sent out. Also went to the McDonald Reach Out Planning District and all the fine folks at the arm of Reach Out.
Thank you very much. I will open the public hearing at 7:18 p.m. Sorry, I lost my track here. Is there anyone, 7:18 p.m., is there anyone wishing to speak in favor in person?
No, there is not.
Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor online?
Thank you.
Is there anything received in favor?
We have one email and one letter with some writing on the initial notice. Both are from the same family, I believe, the Grattons. So I will deem that as one letter of support. And the other letter in support is from the boss Hearts. Both appear to be living in the Sharon neighborhood.
Thank you. I'm reading them now. They're very simple. We're in the owners of X. We are in support of this. Council, we don't need to read all three out, correct? Oh, thank you. Okay. Is there anyone wishing to speak against in person?
No, there is not.
Is there anyone wishing to speak against online? Anything received against?
Nothing received against.
Thank you. One last call. Anyone wishing to make comments, speak against or in favor, online or in person? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing at 7:20 p.m. Do I have a mover?
Councillor
Councilor
Mamchuk.
Belanger.
Thank you. Councillor Mamchuk moves, second by Councillor Belanger.
Okay. Resolution would read, therefore be resolved that conditional use application C7 2021 to allow home-based business consisting of a body, sugaring, and other personal services is approved subject to the following conditions. That the applicant, number one, that the applicant shall ensure that this use is not noxious, offensive, or hazardous by reason of emission or production of odor, dust, refuge matter, waste, vapor, gas, smoke, vibration, or noise, and that this use shall not create any nuisance beyond the property sightline. 2, that the applicant shall not cause the generation of undue traffic or congestion in the neighborhood. 3, that the hours of operation shall be between 7 a.m. and 11 p.m. 4, that there shall be no client parking on Sharon Bay. 5, that all works shall be performed within an enclosed building. 6, that the applicant ensures that this use complies with all building codes, fire codes, and or provincial permits and approvals as may be required. 7, that the space devoted to the business must not exceed 20% of the total floor area of the primary dwelling, or 300 square feet, whichever is less. 8, that all storage shall be indoors. 9, that any signage shall comply with the municipal zoning bylaw 9-2019, section 11. And 10, that the applicant shall provide a signed confirmation letter accepting the terms of this order. There may be site audits conducted to ensure compliance, and non-compliance issues may be caused to revoke the conditional use at any time.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. I'll open it up for council discussion. Council, is there anything you'd like to comment, discuss?
Nope, nothing here, Mr. Mayor.
Perfect, thank you. I just want to quickly generally say that I genuinely appreciate seeing these home-based businesses come to council, getting their license. Not only is it an opportunity to promote the business as much as we possibly can because they're a legal entity inside of Red Shop, but it gives us the opportunity to exchange information to the local chambers and stuff. So congrats to those that are doing this. It's a good thing. So seeing none other questions, I will call for the question.
The vote is carried 5-0.
Thank you very much. Okay, item 6.1.3, C8 2021 1060 Red River Drive, Home Industry.
The proposal is to allow a home industry consisting of stripping scrap metal items for resale in a agricultural limited zone, AG zone. Notices were sent out to 100 meters of said property, as well as sent to the McDonald Richot Planning District, Richot Manager, Building Inspector, Council, CEO, Fire Chief, was posted on site, municipal website, municipal board, and a connect notice was also sent out.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. I'll open the public hearing at 7:24 p.m. Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor in person?
No, there is not.
Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor online? Was there anything received in favor?
The applicant sent a letter this afternoon that is part of your package. If council wants me to read the letter, I could do so.
I'm just looking for it right now. Would it be at there we go.
It would be right under it would be the first letter from the applicant. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th from the top.
Yes, thank you. I see it now. Council, do you want CEO to read it or have you read through it?
I have not had a chance. I didn't know it was there. I read all the other ones last night. So
CEO, I'll ask that you please read it for
please
councils.
summarize or okay, thank you.
Yep. Okay, so good evening, council members and mayor. As most of you know by now, my name is Glenn Bartmanovich and I reside at 1060 Red River Drive. Let me first start with my business model. I take appliances, trailers, air conditioners, and other items destined for the landfill and take them apart. I separate the copper, brass, aluminum, and other valuable materials and sell those items individually. I then resell the remaining steel to the scrap yard. It's that simple. This is the same thing I have been doing for the last 50 years. Now, some of you might say that my land is zoned agricultural. That is a fair statement, but how many farming operations rely on only one revenue stream nowadays? I have no intentions of building a gigantic building with a huge machinery to do this. I do 99% of the separation by hand. The reason I have applied for the conditional use is that I was told by the bylaw officer, Michael Lawrence, that if I wanted to conduct any type of business, I would need to have one. The whole fiasco started last summer after I was approached by the bylaw officer and told there were a complaint made about my front yard and derelict vehicles. First off, all the vehicles in my front yard were registered. One of the vehicles my son and daughter-in-law purchased bus were turning into a camper in my driveway. They were stripping it down, so there were a big pile of garbage sitting there. The other materials were new windows, new tub enclosures, and a trailer loaded of items I needed to sort through. I have no problem admitting that there was a mess created. The cleanup of the mess has started, and even prior to the bylaw officer attending. Do not believe for a second that I enjoy having this type of mess around my property. There are a couple of other issues at play here as well. I've been trying to complete a pad behind my house for the last 5+ years. I have done this for 2 reasons. First off, I want to have the mud available in the event of another flood to fill in my dike, and 2, to start organizing my yard in a neat and orderly fashion that is above the flood level. While trying to build this pad, I have had nothing but interference from members of this community. When I first started, I was approached by Borland Construction and they offered to build up my site and they would supply all the equipment. It did not take long after that they pulled out because because a member of the community told them that I was charging the haul for the dirt. So they did not want to get in the middle of anything. Next, members of the community would tell the trucking companies that they were not allowed to haul to my place because they had to cross provincial property and they would get fined. Another lie from local residents and members of the Howden Hall. I provided a copy of the work site permit to the Public Works supervisor. Another lie is that the community was told that there were road restrictions or that they would pay off drivers to haul to their place instead. If I had not met with all the residents, my pad would have been completed years ago and the property would have looked much different. That is the fault of the members of the community. Sorry to ramble on here, but I think it's important that the community knows the facts. I know there is still lots of cleanup to do around my site, and I have been working all winter to cleaning things, but it takes time. Hopefully with no more dirt pirates, I will be able to organize things and keep the site clean. Just a final point, I hope none of you that are complaining are doing some sort of business from your residents, because you too will need a conditional use. So anyone making a metal art or selling flowers, there are too many businesses to name. From your zoned residential property, be prepared. Sincerely, Glenn Portmanovich.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. Is there anything else received?
Nothing else received in favor.
In favor, sorry, thank you. Is there anyone wishing to speak against in person?
No, there is not.
Thank you. Is there anyone wishing to speak against online? Now, I will go to the items received against. I did discuss earlier, right before the meeting, that there are, I believe, around 2021 objection letters. The CEO and the planner have organized it into point form notes. Instead of reading all 21 letters, we would be here till about 10 o'clock at night. We will just go through those points, correct, Mr. CEO?
Yes, I appreciate that.
Yes. Council, just to confirm, council is okay with this process?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. CEO, please go ahead with the points.
Okay, so a summary of the objections that have been received. The municipality has received 21 objection letters and emails as of 2 p.m. today. A summary of these reasons for the objections are listed. A conditional use, if granted, stays with the land indefinitely. The current state of the site includes unsightly scrap and derelict vehicles and appliances. Stripping scrap items can generate air, water, and noise environmental hazards. Safety hazards, proximity of scrap to the Howden Community Club playground and neighboring children and wildlife. No visual barrier to scrapyard. No plans for noise mitigation. Management and disposal of waste such as tires, upholstery, and plastics burning is unacceptable. Control of vermin rodents, management of Freon and CFCs, hazardous substances, pollution and ground contamination. Decommissioning the contaminated site after operations are ceased. Adherence to provincial and federal regulations. Using access on provincial property. View is unsightly from nearby properties and Howden Community Center. Increase in crime in the area. Winnipeg is trying to prevent theft and resale of scrap. Criminals may look to Howden next. More trucks and traffic. Negative impact on the Howden Community Center rentals due to the unsightly view next door. Negative impact on the area property values. Damage to the Red River Drive from truck traffic. How will the municipality monitor and enforce the conditional use? Reduction in the country appeal of the area. Applicant's unsightly property indicates lack of respect for the neighbors and the environment. No benefit to the community. Failure to remove doors from fridges, freezers for safety. Damage to community's reputation as a beautiful place to live, quiet and clean. This type of business would fit better elsewhere rather than in an agricultural residential area. Potential of toxins leaching into the river and groundwaters and wells. Cost of the RM of increased Red River Drive maintenance requirements due to current and anticipated truck traffic. That is it.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. I will ask, there was just a private message sent to me. Is there opportunities to ask questions? So at this time, this is what the public hearing is for. I will open it up to just general comments or questions, seeing as how I've gone through the in favors or against. If there's anyone that was wishing to speak, this is a one last call to ask questions, comments, to speak in favor or against, or maybe they're uncertain on what will happen. This is your time. So hopefully that answers your question. If you'd like to speak, please say your name right now.
All right, it's Glenn.
Oh, apologies.
Yeah, I'll take Mr. Bartmanovich. I'll take Mr. Penner first, and then we'll go with you, Glenn.
Okay.
Thank you, Glenn.
Hi, good evening. Just a question. Would there not be some sort of requirement, an environmental requirement, or a regulating body that he would have to, that the landowner would be required to get a permit, or some sort of assurance that they're disposing of materials safely?
That's a good question. Mr. CEO, did you want to take that one?
Sure thing. In the conditional use, we do request, and I'll be reading this out loud very shortly, that there's no outdoor storage, that there's no storage of hazardous liquids, materials, and substances. I know I'm not one of those provincial regulators, but I do know that when fridges need to have their Freon removed, there's a stamp or a sticker that goes with it as proof. So there are some provincial guidelines involved that the applicant would have to adhere to.
Does that answer your question as best as possible for this evening, Mr. Penner?
Yeah, I think so. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, Mr. Bartmanovich, you may go ahead. Mr. Penner, I'll ask that you turn off your microphone, please.
Good evening. There appears to be a lot of misconception as to what I'm actually doing here. First of all, I think you've sort of covered quite a few of these points when you read out my letter. I'm not looking at starting this huge business and there's going to be semis driving all over the place. Who knows what these people are thinking. It's just a little side job that more of a hobby that I do. I enjoy taking things apart. There's no other employees, it's myself. As far as air conditioning units, the ones I bring back typically have the Freon removed already, or else if I have to, I get somebody who is licensed to remove it. As far as soil or products leaching into the soil, what kind of products are going to leach into the soil from a washer or dryer? You know, it's just, oh, and I'll say it, ignorant comments like that, the people haven't taken the time to try to understand what I'm doing. They or come and ask me. It's not like I've got a gate at my yard. They could very easily have come here and said, oh, what are you planning on doing? Like neighbors used to do. Now everybody just wants to yak behind a screen. They don't have the gumption to show themselves. You know, talk about disrespect. That Howden Hall would not be there if it was not for the Bartmanovich family. They need to understand that first and foremost. And that's where a lot of the land came from, or the dirt came for the hall, was from my dugout. I'm filling in that dugout partially because there was kids, there was adults coming from the Howden Hall from their celebrations and were going down into my dugout. That was brought up with members of the Howden Hall committee on numerous occasions, and they chose nothing to do or to do nothing about it. Now, I don't want the liability of it. We had one person commit suicide in a dugout just not far down the road. So I chose to spend my own money to fill in the ponds to make it safe for kids or anybody else in the neighborhood. So who's doing who an injustice here?
Mr. Bartmanovich, I always appreciate conversation with residents, but I'd like to just keep it on the topic of the home industry. I will just say that people did write in their objections or their concerns. The CEO did evaluate them and read them out. So to fairness, some of them did say their concerns. But again, let's just try and keep it on topic and on track with approval or disapproval of the home industry for council. Thank you.
Understood. Should it have been classified as something other than a home industry?
Again, I respect your comments, but this evening is strictly for conditional use for a home industry. So that's what we're staying on topic for. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you for your time.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Is there any other comments you wanted to make? No, thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak before I close the hearing? Okay, I will close seeing none, I'll close the hearing at 7:39 p.m. Do I have a mover?
Councillor Mamchuk.
Thank you. Second.
Councillor Pelletier.
Thank you very much. Councillor Pelletier takes it.
Okay, the resolution would read, therefore be resolved that conditional use application C8 2021 is approved, subject to the following conditions: that the applicant shall comply with section 5.2 of the zoning bylaw 9/2019 as amended. There shall be no storage of hazardous liquids, materials, or substances. 3, any outdoor lighting must be located, arranged, or shielded so that no light is directed at any neighboring property or roadway. 4, the storage of all scrap shall be in accordance with bylaw 16-2019, so as to not to be sightly. 5, that all scrap shall be kept in rear yards and shielded from view by a fence of at least 6 feet in height. 7, that the home industry shall be incidental to or secondary to the principal use of the dwelling unit. 7, that the applicant shall comply with the municipal noise bylaw 14-2003. And 8, that the applicant shall provide a signed confirmation letter accepting the terms of this order. There may be site audits conducted to ensure compliance, and any non-compliance issues may be caused to revoke the conditional use at any time.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. I'll open up for council discussion now. Council, is there any comments or debate you'd like to make?
I actually have a question for the applicant, Mr. Mayor.
I will allow it. I will allow it, but that time did pass. But just remember, council, ask questions to the applicants would be at the public hearing. But for this circumstance, so we have all facts, you can ask the question.
Thank you for that. I guess my question is just, I was at the site today and I noticed that there's a berm or dike, looks like partially around Mr. Bartmanovich's residence. And regarding the scope of this whole business, you know, the salvage items that he's collecting and working on, are the plans to keep it all within the within the dike? Because you know there's a large pad that goes to the west of his home that is fairly exposed. Within his residence, within that berm or dike, you know, it's much less visible. So I'm just wondering where his plans to you know, keep these salvage items is.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yes, no, the plan is to possibly put up a small shelter that I can work on things like a small greenhouse, 20 by 30 or something like that, just to take things apart so that it's not unsightly. Inside of our yard, we want to clean that up. This whole process has been delayed, like I said, because the pad was not built as quickly as it should have been. And so that's why there's kind of stuff scattered all over the place. I keep having it to move from one area to the next because of different factors. So yeah, so basically, does that answer your question?
Well, I guess, Mr. Mayor, with respect to that, so then the scrap will be behind the residence on the pad in
Correct.
a closet or a shelter?
Correct.
Will it be more in open view than sort of where it is right now?
Well, if there is a 6-foot fence erected, first of all, I hope that it's not going to be unsightly to begin with. It's going to be, the scrap metal will be stored on the north side of my property line, basically. So it's going to be away from that southern pad boundary. So it shouldn't be that visible based on the angles and the elevations. So even if I put up a 6-foot fence, it shouldn't be visible unless somebody's really looking for it. I welcome any of you to come out to the site to have a look and talk to me about it.
Okay, thank you. Anything else, Councillor Clayton?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And again, I apologize. I didn't ask council if they had any questions for the applicant or whoever is speaking. So that's my ignorance, not the council's. My apologies. I'll go back to council discussion or debate. Anyone else like to make comment?
I'd like to make the comment, this whole business plan or proposal just doesn't seem like it's ready, in my opinion. There's a lot of, like the applicant said, there's a lot of misconception from all the objectors. And to me, it's quite confusing, even with Councillor Clayton's question about where these where the storage will be and if it'll be visible. You know, the applicant says that it's probably going to be on the north part, but it's not really sure. So I would like to see more of a concrete plan in place to be comfortable about this. Just, you know, if we let this go without any kind of really understanding of the full scope of the proposal, I don't know, like it'd be nice to see some kind of plans. And I know it's hard to put money into something that you don't know if it's going to pass or not, but I think you have to put some work into something if you really want it, if you really believe in it, to put a bit more effort into getting that passed and educating the neighbors around you, maybe. I don't know, those are just my thoughts.
No, I respect that, Councillor Belanger. I'm just actually looking at the previous business plan that we just approved, and in comparison to the one we're looking at now, there really is not a lot of information. So I agree 100%. I know council is on the belief that a solid business plan definitely helps any process and makes an approval a lot more appetizing to council, because we can see that they have a vision plan for the area. So I agree 100%. It's a little bit weak and needs a little bit more of an evaluation. Anything else from council?
I do have another comment and regarding the cleanup notice that's in our package.
Mhm.
And just at the end, it says file now closed. So I'm just concerned that if this does not go through, does that mean that the yard doesn't have to be cleaned up, or does, like, I read the non-compliant or the notice and it doesn't look like it has been complied with. I was wondering if maybe Mr. CAO could explain that to me a little bit.
Take it away, Mr. CEO.
I'm currently scanning the cleanup warning notice that was issued in October of 2020. I don't know why the comment of file now closed has been written up as part of the description on this. Just going to look here, a few things here. And I did not make any notes otherwise. So I can't, unfortunately, I do not know why this file would be closed. If the property is still deemed to be in a negligent position, then we would have to either get a complaint or react accordingly and send out the bylaw enforcement officer to open a new file on the situation if this one is closed. So right now, that's the best information I could give you at this time.
May I interject for 1 second? Just to clarify the point, the
Sure.
file is still open. We had until the end of June of this year to finish cleaning up what was recorded on the bylaw officer's report.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Mr. Barmanovich, because I kind of remember that discussion as well. That's why.
Thank you.
If I can hop on, Mr. Mayor, I can confirm that as well, that I have a date of June 30th to be scheduled to look at this by the bylaw officer.
Yeah, thank you, Assistant CEO. I do remember this conversation, so I appreciate that, Mr. Bartmanovich, at that time.
So maybe we're just missing one document. Is that what I'm hearing? Because it looks like it said the return inspection will be done October 30th of 2020, and that's the last where it ends here. So.
Mr. CEO, are you doing any?
I don't have any further information on the file. I don't have the tracker available to me right now. So maybe the assistant CEO could assist me here.
Yeah, I just, from what I can see, that the file is not closed. That was just put in error. So since then, after the October date, I have a date of November 5th, which is confirming that the bylaw officer spoke to both the owner by phone and that they essentially gave him until June 30th, 2021 to remove the junk and whatnot from the property. And the owner has agreed.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Any other discussion from council?
I think my biggest concern on this one, Mr. Mayor, would be the emptying of the air conditioners, fridges. It is regulated on who can do that, and how do we ensure that that's happening at this site?
No, I appreciate that. Are you wanting to adjust the information, the resolution to state no freon removal or NFS CH2O2 6 chlorofluorocarbons or whatever they're called?
Well, I know in the building inspector's recommendation was the approvals from sustainable development, water management, and workplace health and safety, and that would likely fall under workplace health and safety.
Okay. Okay, I appreciate that. Okay, any final comments?
Well, just further to that, is that listed in the listing of the conditions? I don't see that. Can we add that?
Yeah, I think we could.
You took that note,
Yes.
Mr. CEO?
Yes, we can. If council is all in favor of adding it as part of the condition, then the wording would be applicant is responsible for obtaining required approvals from departments such as Manitoba Sustainable Development, Manitoba Water Management for elevations, Manitoba Workplace Health and Safety, etc.
Thank you. Council's in agreement with that?
Yes.
Okay, council, please cast your vote.
I'm just having some issues here. I'll be there in a second.
The vote is defeated. The person who carried the decision was Curtis Clayton. Those against were Councillor Boulanger, Mayor Ewan, Councillor Mamchuk, and Councillor Pelletier were against.
Thank you very much. Moving on to other items out of the, 7.1, 1-2021 parking bylaw, second amendment, second reading. Do I have a mover?
Councillor Mamchuk.
Thank you. Councillor Boulanger, did you second that?
Yes, sure.
Thank you.
Council gave first reading to the parking bylaw 1-2021 back in March 2nd. Some minor edits were done. Those edits have been provided to council in red line on your documents. They are adding a section 20, as well as re-clarifying some administrative terms. It is not a administrative offense notice. It is a administrative penalty notice, as well as removal of section 26. We're dealing with schedules and changing that by resolution. And as suspected, that is not allowed. Only a bylaw is allowed to modify another bylaw. And that is it.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. Is there any comments or questions or debate from council? Now's the time.
When do we attach the rest of the schedules on this, Mr. CAO?
I believe we cannot start ticketing until we have the Manitoba Building Enforcement bylaw in place, the MBEA. That gives the authority to ticket as well. And then the appeal process if people get tickets and all that good nature. So, and then that MBA will also list the fines that are applicable for the offenses committed under the parking bylaw. So that is yet to come, but this is step one. If there's anything else for clarification that the assistant CEO could help me out with, that'd be appreciated, but I think I've covered it off as best as I can.
Well, it's just that there's no info in the bylaw where our no parking zones are.
Apologies, I didn't put the schedules. No changes from the last meeting. Those did not change whatsoever.
Okay, but should we not have the schedules up when we're putting this into bylaw?
Yes, that is that, like the schedules, if the bylaw is referring to schedules, yes. What we've done for second reading, and this is a little bit maybe miscommunications on my part, is that I instructed the assistant CEO to just provide the word changes of the bylaw. And if there were no changes to the schedule, there was nothing new to provide to council. Recommendation would be to move ahead with second reading. And for third reading, if council wishes to have the whole kit and caboodle, we could put off third reading till the next meeting and have it all together as one package. That works for me.
Personally, I'd like that, please.
No problem.
Councillor, are you okay with that as well?
Yeah, I like that idea because then what I do is I take it from here and I save it to my hard drive. So it'd be nice to have it all in one, as one unit.
Okay, then that's what we'll do. We will just focus on second reading right now. Any other discussion?
That was it for me.
Thank you. Seeing none, keeping in mind that the schedules will be attached for third reading, council, please cast your vote for second reading.
Resolution is carried 5-0.
Thank you. Item 7.2, Mr. CEO, do you want me to continue on and table it or just jump over it? What is the recommendation?
I'll put it as tabled.
Thank you. Council's in favor of tabling?
Yes.
Thank you. Moving on to 8.1.1, 4165-20-7977- North Grassy Phase 4. Do I have a mover?
Councillor Mamchuk.
Thank you. Second.
Councillor Clayton.
Thank you.
As discussed at our last planning meeting, this is a subdivision in the North Grassy, Grand Point Meadows, my apologies. This is in regards to their phase 4, which is located further west of what is currently being developed right now. We are looking at, and I don't have the numbers in front of me here, but quite a few lots being subdivided. Most of these lots do not conform to our 100-foot width. However, as part of the subdivision approval, a request to have that variation will be in the approval, and those widths will range anywhere from 59.5 feet, which are basically your pie lots in the subdivision, and up to 86.4. These lots are maybe more narrow than needed, but they are deeper than required, still giving us the 1/3 acres that is required as per our zoning bylaw.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. Is there any discussion from council?
None here.
No, I just hear that the houses or the lots are selling like hotcakes out there. So it's coming along.
Yeah, it's great. It's good news. Okay, council, please cast your vote.
Vote is carried 5-0.
Thank you. Item 8.2.1, development agreement with 100-28318 MB Ltd, Stan Higgins, 2046 and 2050 Van Gorp Road. Do I have a mover?
Councillor Pelletier.
Thank you. Second.
Councillor Blanchet.
Thank you.
The development agreement is a condition of approval from the conditional use that was passed by council back February 17th. The development agreement was discussed with council as part of the planning committee. Not much more to report on that. Everything is in the development agreement as stated to council.
Thank you. I'll open up for council discussion. Council, anything to comment or debate on?
Just to comment on 2A number 1. I don't think that sentence belongs there.
I need to put my reading glasses on.
Sorry, Mitch.
So what you're saying, Councillor Pelletier, is therefore be it resolved, 1, that the municipality enter is not required?
No, the development agreement itself.
Oh, okay. Let me open that up here for a second.
2A or 2B, Councillor?
2A, just the first line. It doesn't make sense with what's being discussed there. In my brain anyway. Or maybe it's legalese and that's why I'm not understanding it.
I think it's more legalese that because there's 5 or 6 uses right now, that there won't be any additional rentals going on the property. I think that's part of the development control, that we don't want it going out of control.
Yeah, it's just line 1 in that subheading there though. This agreement has been registered as a caveat on the property. Doesn't seem to fit.
Okay, I will note that down and run that quickly by our legal counsel. If the recommendation of legal counsel is to leave it in, we will leave it in. And
Okay.
if he says that it's flexible, then we will remove it as the desire of Councillor Pelletier.
Yeah, it just seems like it would fit more with item 1, the agreement, as information than in development control.
No problem. I don't write them, I just read them.
Yeah.
So we will continue as is and with any adjustments that need to be made. Correct, Councillor Pelletier, you're okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay, council's good with that?
Yes.
Okay, council, please cast your vote.
Vote is carried 5-0.
Thank you. Item 8.2.2, February 2021 building permit reports. Do I have a mover?
Councillor Mamchuk.
Thank you. Second.
Councillor Clayton.
Thank you.
Okay, for the month of February, we've had 14 permits in the evaluation of 3.8 million, which brought in about $14,400 in building permit fees. And that is a total for January and February of 32 permits, 11 million worth of construction value, with $35,600 in building permit fees. And we are almost double to what we were of last year at 2020.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. Any discussion from council? I personally think it's fascinating to see what's happening with our building permits, given the situation. It's crazy. Nothing
Yeah, I
else?
don't know how people are affording it, but they're doing it.
I
It's
know.
good for the RM, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
Good for per coffee.
Yeah, that's great for them. Okay, council, please cast your vote.
Vote is carried 5-0.
Thank you. Item 8.2.3, lost income daycare rentals, COVID relief fund for February 2021. Do I have a mover?
Councillor Belanger.
Thank you. Second was that Councillor Clayton.
Yes.
Thank you.
As a result of the pandemic, continuing pandemic, both of these daycares are still operating to non-full capacities because of provincial health requirements. Again, they are running similar to January with only 70% of capacity, therefore affecting their income levels at their end. Recommendation again, as we still have some funds left in the COVID relief grant that we received from the province, that the municipality covers these funds. I've also attached to council's agenda a little balance sheet as to where we stand with that COVID relief fund as of today.
Thank you very much. Council, is there any discussion on this?
Yeah, I have a comment about the summary. I'm not sure if everybody is aware, but the Grand Point Park did receive the bridge grant, and they've actually received the latest one. So not only have they received two $5,000 intakes, they've received three for a total of $15,000. Therefore, Recreation Department has recommended that the Grand Point Park does not receive the $10,000 from the COVID relief fund in this summary.
Yeah, thank you. I don't know if that's what's on the table to discuss right now, though, Mr. CO, is it? Just the daycare?
No, I know,
Just
it
the
was just
daycares,
in-
but I think what I will do is update the table accordingly. I was not aware that the Grand Point Park also qualified for the bridge program. We did forward $10,000 to them as per resolution. I think it was a check was also cut. So I'll have to do a little bit of hunting regarding that matter. But if they received the bridge grant, therefore they should not qualify for what the missing gaps that the RM is trying to cover with this. So I will investigate and we'll let council know and send an updated version.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate that, Councilor Belanger.
Yeah, GPHA is aware of it, so it's not like they've cashed it or anything. If they did receive it, it's back.
Perfect. Okay, anything else to discuss? Okay, council, please cast your vote.
The vote is carried 5-0.
Thank you. Moving on to 8.2.4 unsightly property order compliance date extension dash 1285 Bartmanovich Road. Do I have a mover?
Councillor Mamchuk.
Thank you. Second by Councillor Mamchuk.
This is in regards to a property on Bartmanovich. Basically, they had till March 31st, I believe, to have things in order due to some health reasons and also problems trying to find help. They are requesting an extension of the compliance date to June 30th, as recommended by the bylaw enforcement officer. Does not foresee a problem with the extension, but that council does state that this is their final extension and that everything needs to be done by June 30th of 2021.
Thank you, Mr. Teal. Open up for discussion from council. I'll,
And go ahead.
go ahead. No, you go ahead, Councillor Belanger, please. I'd like you to make the first move.
No, I was just gonna say it's hard in the winter to clean up your yard, so I agree that June 30th is a good deadline to get that going.
Okay, no, I'm not against it at all. I just do remember the discussion council had, I believe it was a whole, saying that we wouldn't tolerate any more extensions, but if council does feel like doing so, I'm totally not against it because of the circumstances we're in.
Yeah, this extension was part of the appeal process, correct?
Yes, it was.
Okay, there's no other discussion. Council, please cast your vote.
The vote is carried 4-1.
Thank you. Moving on to 8.3.1, private hydrant policy. Do I have a mover?
Councillor
Peltier.
Mamchuk.
Councillor Mamchuk, second by Councillor Pelletier.
So basically, the next three resolutions are Public Works related. Public Works is wishing to introduce policies in regards to a private hydrant. Basically that on a private hydrant, it is the responsibility of the owners of that property, likely condo boards of that sort, would be responsible for hydrant maintenance and all associated costs in regards to the hydrant. This, as clarified in an email by Public Works and myself, this does not affect any public hydrants, which are the ones located on our water system on municipal roadways. Those are still the responsibility of the municipality to maintain. These are hydrants on private property. And the policy is similar to the City of Winnipeg, whereby any hydrant on private property is the responsibility of the landowner.
Thank you very much, Mr. Steele. Is there any discussion or debate from council? Seeing none, council, please cast your vote.
Oh, man.
The vote is carried 5-0.
Thank you. Item 8.3.2, road graveling policy. Do I have a mover?
Councillor Belanger.
Thank you. Second.
Councillor Peltier.
Thank you.
Again, sorry. Public Works is looking at a road graveling policy. There are some definitions involved with that as well. Basically, it gives the flexibility to the department regarding an improved municipal road allowance or an unimproved road allowance. Nothing really too drastic here. We are also repealing the previous resolution related to this, and I believe it dates back to 2004, so 17 years ago. So time to update our policy a little bit.
Perfect. Thank you. Is there any discussion from council?
None on this.
Please cast your vote.
The vote is carried 5-0.
Thank you. Moving on to 8.3.3, water conservation policy dash lawn watering restrictions. Do I have a mover?
Councillor Peltier.
Thank you. Second.
Councillor Clay.
Thank you.
The policy is related to Reach Out Water Services. As we produce the water, we want to ensure that we have enough water for public uses, that people are encouraged not to water their grasses all the time unless they have newly planted sod or newly planted seed that requires a lot of water to get it going. But once it's taken, that there be some conservation be done. The policy would be running between May 31st to September 30th, September 30th of each year, and that this would only be applicable to people on the Reach Out water system. Anybody with their own private well may water as they see fit.
Thank you, Mr. C. I'll open up for council discussion. Council, do you have anything you'd like to comment on?
No, I had asked the obvious question about the private wells, and thank you, Mr. CEO, for pointing that out. I just wanted to say that, you know, just because it's a private well, it's still a shortage of water. So I would almost like to see people, although it's not part of the bylaw, just being conservative, even if you've got a private well.
Thank you,
Common
Council.
sense.
Thank you, Councillor Belanger. I guess I will hand it over to our junior councillor, Gummany, see if she has any comments to make on this sustainable policy.
From my perspective, I feel like everyone's trying to be more green now, and like people are seeing like less plastic bags. I feel like keeping our water sustained is also a part of that. And like it said that like the summer was like a peak time for water, and now that we have so much more development within the municipality, I think that it's a great idea so we can keep our water under control. Like the more people we have, the more the peak will be. And I mean, water is limited, so I think I agree with it. I think it's great.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate the input. Anything else from council?
I'm here, straightforward.
Perfect. So council, you'll start drinking water on odd days only too, just to conserve. Thank you.
Okay.
Please cast your vote.
The vote is carried 5-0.
Thank you. Ooh, what else we got here? Okay, item 11, adjournment. Do I have a mover?
Councillor Mamchuk.
Thank you. Second.
Councillor Belanger.
Thank you, Councillor Belanger. Any final comments? Seeing none, I will call for the question. Cast your vote, please.
The vote is carried 5-0.
Thank you very much. I'll close the meeting at 8:19 p.m. Good night, everyone. Please stop recording.